Demon's Souls Remake had to be the easiest bow challenge in this series. I don't research these runs and simply go with the flow. How was I to know bows are overpowered in this game? Now the one thing I was worried about was inventory limits. In Demon's Souls, the items in your inventory have a weight and you can only carry so much around with you. I thought all the arrows I was gonna need were going to weigh me down. Turns out, this was a totally unnecessary worry. Let's take a look at how the run went. I'm Chris from Northern Geek Life, and this is a Demon Souls bow only challenge. I start with a hunter called Ancestor Hawkeye, seeing how Demon Souls is the ancestor of the Soul series. And yes, I know Kingsfield is a thing, but give me some creative leeway here. With my starting longbow in hand, I find out that the damage I put is higher than in the previous Souls I did this challenge in. 2 shots for these mobs isn't bad at all. As always in these runs, enemies that like to huddle behind a shield make life a bit more interesting, but not that much. With the right timing for me to shoot off an arrow while they lower the shield to attack, I quickly make my way to the first boss, Phalanx. Phalanx is more endurance than anything else. It's a matter of waiting until he drops all the little mobs so I can actually hit the boss. Target locking on him was just an annoyance with the lock shifting between the mobs. But once I got some proper openings, it doesn't take much to get Phalanx down. First boss defeated, and the game opened up for me. In World 1-2, I get my hands on the compound shortbow. The damage is a bit better and it's faster than the longbow too. So I switched to this bow for the fight against Tower Knight. You all know the drill. Run around, killing the archers, hit his ankles to make the Tower Knight fall, and aim for the head. After a couple of arrows on his ankles though, I notice it's much easier just shooting its head directly. The damage might not be what I want it to be, but it works. Tower Knight goes down. Time for World 2-1 after getting some levels in myself and the bow. The normal mobs here are once again not much of a problem. Still going down to 2 arrows? I like it! That brings me effortlessly to Armor Spider. And talk about doing things without any effort. From the back of the room I can simply fire off arrow after arrow at the spider. The only attack that can hit me are the webs that slow me down. But I'm not moving, I'm not going anywhere. Slow me down all you want. It takes a while, but Armor Spider goes down. Now the road to Flame Lurker is open. Any sensible person would take it to get access to boss soul weapons. It would be the best bow in the game for me. The lava bow. Any sensible person would do that. So I take a trip to Valley of Defilement. Leechmonger is a bit of an annoying boss. He can heal even when you're right next to him. Luckily, he also attacks. It's possible to snipe him from afar, but he would just be healing all the time. By going in a bit closer, he attacks me and doesn't overheal my damage output. After a while, Leechmonger gives up the healing and I can take him down. Swamp of Sorrow is one of the worst worlds FromSoft has ever created. The slow walking, the big heavy hitters, the weird little town at the end, all with no checkpoint anywhere in sight. Thank God there is a fun boss fight at the end. Oh, wait, no there isn't. On the first attempt, I completely forgot I had no healing items on me. So that's a win for the Dirty Colossus. On the second attempt, however, I go in fully prepared. I find a nice spot in the back near the entrance to the next world. Colossus can't hit me here, as he is just too lazy to actually walk over, favoring range attacks instead. I just stand there rooted to the spot and fire arrows his way. It's boring, it's tedious, it got the job done. Dirty Colossus dusted. That just leaves Maiden Estrella. Another self-healing boss. I find a nice spot on the right side of the arena to snipe away with my arrows. This way, I don't need to deal with Finland. Again, it takes a while, but I managed to whittle away at her health. With the maiden falling, I finished World 5. Now I finally make my way to Flame Lurker. The tunnel itself isn't that difficult. Some well-placed arrows take care of all who stand in my way. And down the winding paths, Flame Lurker awaits. He usually leaves a pretty generous window for attacks after he slams. Those should be easy to avoid. That doesn't mean it's impossible to get caught up in them though. When Flame Lurker hits, it hurts. But honestly, it's pretty straightforward. Just be careful to back away far enough and keep firing those arrows. Flame Lurker goes down on the first attempt. I delivered the Flame Lurker soul to the blacksmith and immediately turned the longbow into the lava bow. This should be a very nice upgrade. Time to slay a god. I head into the Dragon God arena and stumble upon a small issue. I can't break the broken pillars further with arrows. Well, that killed the run. Yes, you can beat demon souls with only bow and arrow. That's a shame. Well, time to pack it in and go to Dark Souls 3. I joke, of course. The challenge is that I can only do damage with bow and arrow. Breaking stuff with a sword will be fine. So I equip one and make my way to the two ballistas. Once those are fired, Dragon God goes down easily enough. I don't even have to get so close that I can get hit by the bread. That's another world finished. I head back to Castle Boletaria for the next boss. The road to Penetrator is full of enemies with shield again. This timing my shots is paying off handy now. It isn't long before I find myself in front of the boss fog. Honestly, I feared Penetrator. He hits hard, but as it turns out, he doesn't hit very often. Keeping my distance works like a charm. His dumb AI helps out even more. He gets staggered out of his charges even with a bow, gets stuck behind the statues, and is overall slow to close the distance. Or maybe he's just not able to do so. Penetrator goes down pretty easily, and with him out of the way, I can penetrate into the heart of the castle. Before fighting the False King, I go into the Shrine of Storms. The skeletons had me worried with their rolling around. Turns out, they don't have iframes in their rolls. Not much to handle it seems. That means it's not that hard to get to the first boss of this world. Adjudicator is such a pushover. I stayed on an upper level and just started shooting at the bird on his head. His tongue swipes are easy enough to roll through, and so are his overhead weapon slams. He's not able to hit you with anything else. With the lava bow upgraded, it doesn't take many arrows and even less minutes to take this big lad down. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. Next one please. Time to go down the ritual path. The skeletons are a bit more bulky, but not a problem if there is enough space to back away. The Reapers with their summons are just an annoyance. If they are visible from afar, I can snipe them. If they aren't visible, running past everything is the way to go. Using those simple tactics, it isn't long before I find myself at the old hero. I always feel a bit bad bullying the blind, in game as well as in real life. Staying silent at times helps get his aggro off me. I know I could have equipped the Thief Ring and the Cloak spell, but this works just fine. I get hit a couple of times, but nothing really life-threatening. Old Hero goes down easily enough. Next up, a little stroll outside. The local wildlife is shooting some sort of crystal at me, and when their father shows up, things get more interesting. I need a couple of passes, but my damage is pretty good. I kill the Storm King fast enough. That's another world finished. Back to the first world. The dragon gives me little trouble. The cheat for him is using a bow after all. With him out of the way, it's time to dethrone a false monarch. The same tactic as I used on Penetrator works for the false king. Staying at a distance and staggering him out of some attacks worked well enough. The only real difference is that he does have attacks that can close the distance. Some I could roll out away from, but others I just never got the timing right on. I got hit quite a bit in that fight. But in the end, it doesn't matter. The lava bow does more than enough damage to take out the false king. One more world finished, one more world left. Tower of Latria is a level I strongly dislike. Not because of the enemies, I can snipe most of those, but the level layout. It's very logical, but it just all looks the same. No matter how many times I play this game, I somehow always get lost here. So it takes a bit longer to make it to the Fool's Idol, but I manage it in the end. Fool's Idol is basically the Souls version of Where's Waldo. All I needed to do was find the correct idol and shoot her a couple of times to win. It takes a couple of teleports, but the lava bow is doing all the work here. After a short fight, Fool's Idol bites the dust, which means I can finally leave this place and not get lost anymore. Traveling to the Man-Eaters is another easy voyage. Everything that doesn't die in 2 arrows dies in 3. Quite uneventful level again. Bow only really is the easy mode. The only real problem with Man-Eaters is that this tends to happen. And it happens a couple of times. Be sure to check the You Died video for those. When I eventually learned to stay on the walkway, it doesn't take much to kill them. Focusing on the first one and ignoring the second one worked well. Much easier to deal with one enemy than with two. When the first one dies, it's just a matter of time before the second one goes down too. Another demon slain. The run up to the Ivory Tower isn't anything special. It's always just felt like filler really. So in no time at all, I make it to Old Monk. Since I'm playing offline, it is an NPC fight. He manages to get some hits in and knows how to dodge some arrows. Don't you just hate when NPCs do that? The final hit took longer to get than any of the other hits. But Old Monk does go down. Time to finish this. So what to say about King Roland? What is there even to say? This is the worst endgame boss FromSoft has ever done. It's not even a fight really. Just keep firing those arrows. That's it. Fight over. Game beaten. So yeah, that's it. Demon Souls beaten using only a bow. Easy mode unlocked. Only Dark Souls 3 left for the bow only challenge now. Be sure to stick around for that one. The easiest way to do that is to subscribe to the channel. Consider leaving a like if you got to the end of the video. It all really helps us grow. Until next time, my friends.